say tamas, rajas and sattva, what it means is, those kind of food substances which create lethargy in the system, dullness, increases sleep. Sleep means death. You are dead for 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, whatever, or one-third of your life you're anyway dead. Rajas means you are active in the world. Activity without the necessary awareness, after some time you will get frustrated with activity because suddenly one day when you stop and look, you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. Tamas means you're conscious, it brings consciousness. This is not just in food, this is in us. We are also recognizing foods which support this, that's all. It is not that food will cause these qualities in you. You have these qualities, some foods support that, some foods don't support that, that's about it. Food is not a deciding factor. You can eat garbage and still be a Buddha. But why eat something which doesn't support you and go against it? See, it is like you bought a diesel car and you put kerosene in it. You buy a petrol car and you put diesel in it. It will still go, but it will not function at its optimum. So we should see what kind of food are we designed for. If you look at this fundamentally, there are various aspects which will tell you certain stories about what you should eat. Now, it is not only about human beings, it is about the individual human being. Right now, what is the nature of your quality, accordingly you should eat. If you leave it to your senses know what to eat, how much to eat, how much of what to eat. But because too much education, sense is gone. Everything is by information. What to eat, they will Google and see. If you… initially you said if a farmer can be told about meteorological predictions, if a fisherman can be told about meteorological predictions, how things will happen. I want you to understand, even now, the best fishermen in the world never look at the meteorological predictions. I've been on fishing boats with some people off the African coast and Mediterranean coast. They put their nose up in the air and he says, in 2 hours there'll be a storm, we need to go back. Okay, he never looks at the thing. Because every other creature knows there is going to be a storm. If you observe the fish, they're all behaving… when tsunami happened in southern India, we were the first people to be there. In less than 24 hours, we were there with medical vans and I was personally there. What I noticed was, there were lots of dead bodies, human dead bodies. Cattle which were tied down, they had died. None of the loose cattle had died. Even the donkeys did not die. Even the fish, not a single dead fish on the beach. All of them knew it's coming. Only human beings did not know it's coming. Not only that, in Andamans, we have a Air Force station, they have the best meteorological stuff. They did not know it's coming and the entire Air Force base got really washed up. Why I'm telling this to you is because when we say we are the most evolved life on this planet, what it means is, we have the most complex and sophisticated neurological system. If we have the most complex and sophisticated neurological system, we must be able to sense more things than anybody can sense, isn't it? No, don't clap, you're not sensing anything. But now, because of a little cerebral activity, our thought and emotion has overtaken us in such a way, what you think and feel has become paramount. Your psychological drama has become bigger than the cosmic drama. Yes, what you are thinking today, isn't it more important than what's happening in the entire cosmos? So because of this fallacy, because of this misunderstanding, because you're too engrossed in your own psychological drama, you can't sense it. Otherwise, I must tell you this, I was living on a farm in a remote place outside of Mysore many years ago. I hired one guy whose hearing was very bad. Because his hearing is bad, he looks like a fool because he doesn't understand what people say. So in the village, everybody makes fun of him, they call him names and things and, treat him badly. So I said, you come and live on my farm, so he lived on. He will simply sit like this, because he can't have conversations. If I have to have conversation with him, I have to shout at him, he will understand half the sentence. So he simply sits. Suddenly one day he gets up and starts preparing the plough and the bullocks. I said, what are you doing? He says, no, tomorrow we will plough. I said, where is the rain? He says, no, it's going to rain tonight. I look at the sky, it's all empty sky. How is it going to rain today? No, Swami, it'll rain today. And it will for sure rain today. And tomorrow morning he's ploughing at 5:30 in the morning. Then I thought, oh, this dumb idiot, he knows something that I don't know. So I went there and sat just like him, squatting where he used to sit, same place, and I put my hand out like this, trying to feel the moisture, temperature, smell of the earth, this. I took 18 months. Every day I sat. Because I was insulted, this dumb idiot knows something that I don't know. I can't take it. So I sat there, felt it, watched the leaves, watched the insects, watched the birds. Then today, I will tell you, if I say there's going to be rain, 90% there is going to be a rain. This is not some magic, this is not some yoga, this is just observation, that's all.